Hey, today's podcast with Adnan Virk, and I also want to remind you, please subscribe and comment, because it took us 3 years to learn all the tricks, apparently. LeBron played a big part in creating the Warriors, sort of. But it's actually not related to the Heat at all. Lonzo Ball's new ad makes everyone like him now and go, you know what, he and his dad are just having fun. And callers ask Adnan to tell them which movie is better. Ghost Dad or Ghost Dad?
The Ryen Russillo Show podcast.
Adnan just said it best, I think, on our TV intro to the whole thing on ESPN News, the Russillo Show. Adnan Virk with us. That when you get post-NBA playoffs, but I still think this stretch has always been good for me radio-wise because you have all the drama of NBA free agency, and last year it was massive. A few years prior to that, it was LeBron. This could be a little bit more predictable, but there's still always all this angst and the rumors, and I think people actually like to consume the rumors even if they're not true. You got the draft going into next week, so even though you come in today, 2 days now after the Golden State Warriors win an NBA championship, I still think there are a lot of things to do, but I know you're worried.
A little bit. I'll tell you this. I kind of wanted to see 16-0 Warriors for history, but when Cleveland won, I was like, good. That extends us next week. I'm with Russillo. Easy topic on the Tuesday coming off Monday's game. Maybe the Cavs win. Hey, are you buying the Cavs now? Preview Game 6.
Yeah, here we go.
Instead, now this becomes, like you said, a little bit more of a challenge.
Who has more pressure on them?
Exactly. We could have took this thing until Father's Day.
But I'm telling you, this is where I shine. Because I go home last night, start hammering out some ideas, watching a little 30 for 30.
Yes.
Little NBA actor star analogy game. We're going to take some
one.
call on movies. Like, these are better shows for you. This is a better fit. I like you more like this. Wild, loose, untamed.
I look forward to that. Okay. Then Untamed Heart. We'll do it today. Not the movie, but just.
Perfect. Yeah, let's not recap that one.
Christian Slater.
Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Speaking of Christian Slater, yesterday when I said, I think we're getting Slater on the show, and Adnan goes, Christian? We're like, no, beat writer, Anthony Slater of the Warriors.
Who was still great, by the way.
Was great, but you were disappointed.
Christian Slater made a comeback with Mr. Robot, that's why.
Yes. Not relevant to what we're doing here, but table for later, perhaps. Is that all right?
Rami Malek, great.
Yeah. I'm watching the 30 for 30 last night, Celtics-Lakers, best of enemies, and it's really good. And I think for younger NBA fans, if you watched it, or if you haven't yet, you need to truly understand the Lakers and how maddening it was for them to lose to the Celtics every single time they matched up in the finals, and for Jerry West to lose his mind, admit to going into a deep depression, despising everything about the Celtics, and not just I wouldn't call it the arrogance of Bill Russell, the supreme confidence of, yeah, we're going to win again, like I'm Bill Russell. Right. Just incredible. But there's a bigger thing that happens in the storytelling of the Celtics and Lakers that has something to do with the NBA in the 70s. And for whatever reason, I don't know if it's because of race, but maybe it just wasn't as I don't know. But the 70s are sort of this forgotten decade in NBA history. In the 60s, we go with the Celtics run, the 80s, Lakers, Celtics, then you got Jordan, then you get some Lakers stuff and into the Spurs. But the 70s don't get talked about as much. Mm-hmm. And one of the themes of the storytelling, again, from last night's piece, and anybody that's ever researched this or looked it up, is that there was this public perception that in the 70s, the declining popularity of the NBA was because it was too black. Okay, in the 60% range, in the 1960s, it was about 60% black. In the 1970s, it went to about 75% black. There were articles. You go back and find this stuff, and it's not hard to find any of it, Adnan. In that it was a league that was too black, and it was also a bunch of black players that were using drugs, and on, which is completely unfair the way that part of it is told. Because let's face it, as I brought it before, you had baseball guys, high awareness, kind of like face of the franchise type guys in baseball, get busted for all sorts of stuff, but they were white and wasn't treated the same way. It wasn't consumed the same way. But it was looked back upon as saying, okay, if 75% of the league were black, and is this a problem for the white audience? Like, what are we doing? We look back at that and be like, what an awful, awful way to talk about the story. The numbers now, it's about 70% black. I don't think you've ever heard anybody say, is the league too black now? And I think that's a great thing. Mm-hmm. It's probably, 20% white. It's never been lower. It's even less of the American white basketball player than we've ever seen before. So as we look back on the way the NBA was talked about in the 70s, and we recoil like, oh man, this is awful. What if I said it today? What if I came on the air in 2017 and said, Adnan, I want to open with this. Is the NBA too black? I mean, it's not that far off. It's 70%, 75%. If we were doing it in the 70s, were we just out of our minds or were we actually onto something? If I said to you, hey, Adnan, that's the first segment I want to do today, you would say what to me?
I'd say I'm probably doing the show solo today. I'd say, Smallman, can we book some guests? Because I don't know if Ryan's going to make it till 4 today. It would not be a topic well received by most of America because they'd say, why is that an issue? Why is that a problem?
Okay. And I would never do the topic because here's the other thing. I'm okay with some of the things that are fairly obvious. Like you watch any track and field meets this past week, like there's some stuff going on that's pretty obvious. And I think it's okay for us to say it that like my folks are good at some of the events and the other people that look like me aren't good at some of the better event. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
let's stop dancing around some of the stuff that's super obvious that we walk on eggshells. Like, yes, black people are better at basketball than we are. I mean, I'm okay with it. I've accepted it. So we're on the same page there.
Mm-hmm.
But aren't we doing that exact same topic reversed when we talk about baseball being too white and the declining number of blacks in baseball when it was, say, mid-70s peak at almost 20% to about 9% today? Isn't it the same question that we're asking? Because we're asking that one a lot about baseball, or am I completely missing the point?
No, I think it's asked, but it's not asked, is baseball too white? It's where have all the black players gone? Because I think if you looked at the NBA, maybe somebody would argue you've never seen a really dominant era of white American basketball players, where there was an era in baseball where African-American ball players were the best players in the game. And I think that's where the concern goes. Well, how does it go from 20%, 23%, I think, in 1985 to now like 6.8%? Like it's so low right now, black players in baseball. It's comparable to like 1957, which is insane. You think, oh my God, that's only a decade after Jackie Robinson had integrated the game. So I think it's how you phrase it. I think if you just say, is the NBA too black or is baseball too white, then people recoil. But if you just say...
No one recoils at the second one.
Right.
I mean, Adam Jones goes, it's a white man's sport, and we continue to ask those questions. Somebody goes, what's wrong with Adam Jones?
Yeah. But I think you would never have like an inquiry into it. Like it wouldn't be like, all right, let's have an investigation as to why baseball is so white. It's more like, hey, why aren't black players more interested in baseball? And Chris Rock has talked about it. He says, listen, I'm a black guy who loves baseball. I love the Yankees.
But what else did Chris Rock say about being black, which I thought was perfect?
Right. He said the bottom line is this. He goes, black America has often been the barometer for what's cool. And
yes,
a lot of black kids
exactly.
don't think baseball's cool. So he goes, they're just going to gravitate more towards basketball and football. And you can say whatever you want as far as, is the game too slow in pace of play? Yeah, it's too expensive, and that's an issue in some inner cities. But above and beyond, Chris Rock goes, listen, black people don't think it's cool. Simple as that.
I don't think kids think it's cool. The participation numbers are down. I spent all morning just going through all sorts of numbers, and you can find different numbers for different things, but they're all kind of telling you the same thing, is that the numbers are declining rapidly. There's these traditional black colleges that can't field enough baseball players to even have their teams be all black. And then when you look at the scholarship numbers for baseball teams versus basketball and football, the math on that makes sense. The math on these travel tournaments for baseball and the specialized coaching that you need, that all makes sense, that it's an economic thing. But look, there's white kids that don't want to play baseball anymore, and that has nothing to do with race. It's just, as you point out, it not being as cool. I just think that
having said that, though, among the Hispanic community, it's huge. Numbers are up. They've been growing for years now. So baseball still trumpets that. They say, all right, that is a problem that there's not enough black players as there were in the past. But look at the demand in Latino communities. It's never been more popular.
And then when I looked into kind of the academies, right, where you look at the Latin academies, I've read stories where it's like, well, that is racist because you're going right to these academies and you're putting all your resources into there where you could be putting your resources into the inner city and building the same academies. And I would go, is it that, or is it a baseball franchise going, the cost effectiveness of putting up these academies all over Latin America makes way more sense, right? Because let's face it, you probably don't have HR down there. You don't have to handle it the same way. Mm-hmm. And you're just, the expenses, I imagine, are minuscule compared to what it would cost to put it up in any inner city in the United States. So what does that really mean? Like, what are you biased against people, or are you biased against cost in that one? And that one's been debated still. I'm not sure about,
And they might say a higher rate of return as well. Like if I go there to San Pedro de Macorís, I know that I'm going to have talent-rich ball players ready to go. I don't necessarily know that if I go to an African-American community in America.
I don't know if I'm missing the point, but I think the way you phrased it probably tightens it up a little bit better. But it was just something that dawned on me last night. Hit us up at Russillo Show.
The Ryen Russillo Show. Russillo.
Well, the responses to that opening segment were pretty predictable, so glad we could all have an open mind and examine things, but that's just not what we do. The
general tenor was, this is cringeworthy, move on, guys.
That was one tweet. I don't get why we can't talk about things.
Were the others harsher in their assessment or more positive?
There was very little positive. But that's all right. Sometimes that's what you get to do as a talk show host. Russillo Show on ESPN Radio, presented by Progressive Insurance. We got Adnan Virk with us. Progressive Insurance, we're going to compare rates for you so you get the best deal, even if it's not with us, saving you time and money. Now that's Progressive. Call or click today. We are going to do a baseball topic. Last night was great. Let's play 2. Huh?
Let's play 2.
Freeze pops all over it. Did not hesitate. Slight look of panic in his eyes, and he got it.
So we have on the TV side, but you're going to still be able to benefit from this on the radio side. But Foot Locker came out with an ad with a bunch of the potential top picks. Okay, De'Aaron Fox is in there. Jason Tatum has a great line about fishing. Jonathan Isaac is out there. But Lonzo Ball absolutely steals the show. Okay, and look, Adnan, in 40 seconds of speaking publicly, which may be the most combined seconds we've seen him talk, everyone loves him now. The social media response to Lonzo in this ad has been awesome. So here it is from Foot Locker. These guys talking about just having family in their lives and what it's meant to them growing up.
Dads are special. So many memories.
All those games of one-on-one in the driveway where he let me win. Just never missing a game.
Of course, there's that big day when your dad berates your high school coach in front of an entire crowd for not getting you enough touches. Waking up early to drive to all those faraway tournaments. Or that special moment when your dad sits you down and tells you where you're going to college. Copyright your name to make it a part of a family lifestyle brand. Went on First Take and shouted back and forth with Stephen A. Smith about how you're already better than the reigning league MVP. All those interviews from the stands during college games, the public spats with the all-time great, soundbite after soundbite to the national media, and then tells 29 out of 30 teams to not bother drafting you.
And fishing. We went fishing a lot.
Jason Tatum has the fishing line at the very end, but obviously most of that is Lonzo.
Listen, LeVar Ball has fun with everything. As I have said, he's in on the jokes. Even if you don't like him, he knows every time he causes a kerfuffle, he's drawing attention to himself and his brand and all the rest of it. And like you said, we have not heard from Lonzo. And that alone illustrates that he has a sense of humor. He gets it. He's well aware of the image of his dad and how people have responded to it. So let's have some fun with it. I mean, that is exactly what you said. That's a reason to already love Lonzo Ball, because he totally understands the backlash that he's already getting caused by his father.
People were like, I want my team to draft him now. And I guess people thought, Lonzo was just a robot at one point? Was that the fear?
People were worried that he was being controlled by his dad, only because we didn't see him or hear him. It was all just his dad going 24/7. You go, oh my God, like, is his dad going to be at practice? Is he going to be calling out plays? Is he going to be barking at coaches? And we're like, no, he's worried with Big Baller Brand. Like, his dad's not going to be at Lakers practice drawing up plays. Is he? Like,
no.
Exactly. So is he going to be frustrating? Perhaps. If Lonzo gets off to a poor start, is LeVar Ball going to be a distraction, being annoying, bothersome? Maybe. But the kid himself can ball, and he's great. And by all accounts, he's going to be a star in the league. So give him a chance, and that commercial, at the very least, hopefully the people will.
Jeff Goodman was on SportsCenter and had this to say about the Lakers and Lonzo.
I'd be shocked if he doesn't. I think there's a push within their organization to take somebody like Josh Jackson. I think they really like him. But I think ultimately, Magic really likes Lonzo. And I think the Lakers go with Lonzo at the end of the day, even though they could use a guy like Josh Jackson. They could use a guy like Tatum. I mean, listen, they could use a lot. That's why they weren't very good. But I think at the end of the day, Lonzo is just such a throwback player, somebody who just makes people better in a day when that doesn't happen all that often these days at the point guard position, that I think Magic's going to take him.
I agree with that idea that Magic, when he watches Lonzo, there has to be a part of Magic that appreciates him maybe more than most front offices because of how special Lonzo is as a player. You can't call his passing or vision advanced because it's almost just like acting. If you get to 30, you can start to do that. There are 30-year-old point guards that will never see the court the way Lonzo does now. Now, does his shot become too much of a liability? The numbers are better than you'd think, but then you talk about his shot like in traffic versus just pulling up from three. I don't know. I'm not really worried about any of those things. I don't think any young players are great defensively. When I watch young players and I prep for the draft, I don't even watch them that much on defense anymore because they all kind of stink. So I wouldn't even use that as a negative with Lonzo. Now, when it comes to the father part of it, I agree with you, Adnan. If you're Magic Johnson, you're the freaking Lakers. So what? The dad's a little loud. Like, you're the Lakers,
right?
We
can deal with
I
it.
figure that's what the shoe is worth.
Yeah, that's great. $4.95.
You think Magic is going to sit there and go, "Yep, okay, I'd like to do my daily updated routine. I'm going back and forth with LeVar. You know, is LeVar gonna win in the city of Los Angeles in a public spat with Magic Johnson?
Right.
I mean, maybe if it was still Mitch Kupchak, you'd be worried about it. Maybe if it was a different front office, maybe this is part of the positive of having a guy like Magic among some of the other things.
Yeah, what do we know about Magic? He's a people person, all right? If there's anybody who's charismatic, who's charming, who can disarm anyone, it's Magic Johnson. So if there's an issue with LeVar, and I'm sure there will be if they draft Lonzo, I'm pretty sure Magic can handle it. He's kind of dealt with volatile characters in the past.
If you were looking at De'Aaron Fox, Kentucky, the other point guard, and LeVar's son Lonzo, and going, they're even. They're completely even. We see them we grade them out to the number. They're the same player, even though they're not the same player, but you just see their abilities same. Then maybe is it a tiebreaker? Sure. But if you like Lonzo and you think he's the second best player after Fultz and Fultz is gone, then I don't know why a pro team would really be that worried about him. You can not like the dad, but you're going to let that get in the way of taking a lesser player. That doesn't make any sense to me.
And to your point about the shot, rarely now do we see a college player with a one and done come out and everyone goes, yep, fully formed pro prospect ready to go. There's always going to be some areas that need to be smoothed over, whether it's Nerlens Noel, Ben Simmons, Lonzo Ball, like all these stars that come out number one, you go, yeah, but his shot still needs work. And that's the reality of it.
Big announcement for the show tomorrow here on the Russillo Show on ESPN Radio. We're going to have the guys from Barstool, Big Cat, and PFT co-hosting all 3 hours with me in studio. They're driving up from New York City tomorrow morning. We have them locked into our pre-show meeting. I guess they're bringing their producer, and I'm going to go on their podcast and tape something maybe after the show. And I apparently have an 18-year-old intern that's a diet expert. There's nothing better than an 18-year-old who's an expert at anything. And they were like, no, you're really going to like him. So we have him on the list, too. So that's real. Pardon My Take podcast. 2 dudes, Big Cat, PFT. They're going to be here. And we have a ton of surprises.
Massive news. I mean, their podcast
it's a big deal.
is as popular as any. When I saw you tweet it last week,
we're doing all right over here.
No, I mean, you guys are top 10. There's no doubt. But I'm just saying, everybody knows Barstool guys have been a huge hit. So I thought I might get bumped again. When I saw your tweet, I go, hang on a second. Was I in for Thursday? No, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm safe. All right. So
yeah, people got to understand that we're trying to do things, and then every now and then, like if you're a regular, like you'll get bumped.
Right.
Like Chris Long, Van Pelt, people got bumped for that.
Right. It's in fluctuation, but listen, in this case, it makes sense. These guys are going to be great. I'll be listening. Also, I want to remind everybody now tonight with Wednesday's 30 for 30 continuing, 33 championships, 12 NBA final matchups, 2 teams, 1 epic film event, Celtics-Lakers, best of enemies. The story continues tonight, 8 Eastern on ESPN, or stream the entire story now on the ESPN app. Let's plan on making sure you check that one out tonight. All right. I don't have a lot of friends. I have a lot of friends. I just not
don't,
here.
I just don't have anyone around.
Yeah,
and it's starting to wear on me a little. I have friends all over the country.
Colorado, one of your best.
Colorado's
Denver,
a hot zone for me.
Yeah.
You know, the West Coast, another heat zone for your boy.
Right.
And sporadically, Burlington still got some peeps.
UVM,
yeah, Vermont, but locally, not a great depth chart, and I'm about to lose like 5 more, and people are worried.
Define people are worried. Which people?
Close to the program. People close to the program,
okay.
Sources close to the program are worried that, I'm not the most social outward guy as I've gotten older, but like imagine having to just make brand new friends at 40-something years old. I don't think I could do it that well in my 20s. I don't like my chances now.
Friendless after 40.
You think that's
that's the dilemma that you're facing right now? It sounds like the topic of like a therapy group.
I didn't think this was going to be like I want to be made fun of here, I guess, is what I'm saying, but it's not going to be like this could be one of those segments where people let's not have this one be a listening session because it sounds a bit depressing. And we look, we don't ever even have a great Wednesday, but you also like it when we open up to you too. And I'm opening up right now, and between the Sarah Walsh, Matt Bushmans of the world, some others moving on, there's a really good chance I'm going to be living in a neighborhood that is its own little community, condos, townhouses. We're not living that high life yet.
Right.
And community pool. That I'm going to be like the only person there without kids. I'm not a great fit now where I live, but if you're taking away like my only friends from that group, then what are we doing here?
Now, listen, I think a lot of people can relate to what you're saying, Ryan, because...
You sure?
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people find that here in Connecticut because they say if you're married and have kids like me, it's a great place to raise a family.
You got Little League, you're meeting people.
Right, wonderful
Applebee's,
school system. Exactly, yeah.
Riblets.
Whereas if you're single, you're all right, I go to work, I go to the gym, I go home.
Every day
about
almost.
It. If I socialize with people from work. And I don't want to socialize with people from work because then we just talk about work the whole time.
We do.
So where do I find friends who are not work friends? So I think that is an actual dilemma facing a lot of people. But I think your community, there's people that want to be friends with you. Yusuf's teacher, Mrs. Clayton, lives in your complex. Because she said to me, she's like, oh, yeah, I know your buddy Ryen Russillo. And I was like, yes. What do you got on Russillo? Now, Mrs. Clayton is married, has kids.
Oh, all right. Well.
So that's maybe not a great fit for you. But she goes, no, Ryen, an avid reader, which I said, that's not surprising because he often sits by the pool, reads. I said, shirtless? She goes, no, not shirtless. But he does like to read a lot. I said, how is he with the kids? Like, does he interact a lot? She goes, I go, well, in fairness, he doesn't know you. He doesn't know the neighborhood kids.
Yeah, what do you want me to just start going
up
and start patting the head of some stranger's kid?
Maybe you should be jumping in the sprinkler system with the other kids.
No, I'm very pro kids. There were kids the other day at the pool,
right.
And I went out there to read, and I was reading something that was a little bit more complex. We were talking about it the other day. I
right.
mean, it was like this wasn't easy reading.
Robert McKee.
Right. Like I was basically studying, and there was a bunch of kids, and they were screaming and yelling and making a ruckus, and guess what I did? I go, I'm pro kid. I like kids having fun.
Right.
Like, granted, I can't sit here and read. I got to go back inside.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to sit there and look at kids and go, "You're ruining my afternoon."
No.
What am I, an ogre?
Exactly. You've been babysitting Walsh
I've
and
been
Bush
babysitting
kids,
lately. I've been getting that routine. I even wiped up vomit the other day.
The key is you just got to get out of your comfort zone. Go to places you wouldn't normally go, and that's where you'll make friends.
Show up to playgrounds by myself and just start saying hi.
No, I'm not. I don't think that's necessarily what I'm looking for here. But have you ever thought about taking like a dance class? Like maybe if you learn to dance, you meet some people there. Like that seems like a natural fit.
That doesn't seem like a good fit.
Russillo taking jazz dance. Learn to waltz 101.
I think one of the other problems I have is like if I meet somebody new and they find out what I do, I just feel like they're going to hit me up for tickets. The thing is, we don't have, like everybody, that's the biggest misconception about this place. Like everybody's just walking around the hallways handing out tickets to the World Series and the U.S. Open. And you're like, it's a little more complicated.
No, 100%.
Yeah,
with the Little League dads, I was like, once they knew what I do, it's like, now they're going to want, hey, my kid's got advice. He's trying to get into broadcasting.
T-shirt.
Right. Can you give me some advice? Is there any internships at ESPN? Right. Yeah. That's like, I can't do, I have no juice.
The intern thing, I've whiffed on the intern thing 4 times. There was somebody I wanted to not get the internship. That person got it. Like, that's how bad I'm. Like, there was 4 people I put in a recommendation for, 0 for 4. And then there was somebody else. I was like, oh, this person's the worst. And then that person got it.
Right.
So, like, talk about that. Yeah, I got no juice. No juice, Adnan.
Right. But it's a bad feeling. Someone goes, hey, Ryan, my kid, he's really eager. Like, well, I can't vouch for him if I don't know him. Like,
now, that's the other one. Yeah, you mind writing a recommendation letter? I don't know his name.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Doug is terrific, and his focus is outstanding, and he's always been respectful to his dad.
Right. Team player.
So, yeah, maybe me saying this out loud is another reinforcement.
I'm telling you, go out of your comfort zone. Go to places you wouldn't normally do. You're an avid reader. You go to the library. You'll meet other people.
Book club?
Book club is the way to go, I think. I think book club's an excellent idea. Absolutely. You're an avid reader. You like to read lots of different things. That's how you meet people.
Ryan, you want to hang out?
No, work people.
With freeze pops?
No, it's not. There's an age issue, maybe.
I kind of do, but I know I can't. All right, coming up next. I love freeze pops. All right, so I want everybody to understand it.
The Ryen Russillo Show. Russillo.
Because we saw something with Golden State that we've really never seen before, we had a hard time with it, okay? So they won the title. We're 2 days removed from this whole thing, but now we're in this offseason, Adnan, of trying to figure out what does it mean now for everybody else, right? How does this happen? But is there any chance, and this is something that gets talked about a lot in NBA circles, is there any chance that the superstar players are themselves to blame for the super team we have in Golden State? And I'll give you the timeline of this. Once the new TV deal was done, like $1.5 billion more, so almost triple the revenue coming in, and all of the salaries, all of the salary cap stuff is directly related to a very simple formula of whatever the basketball-related income is. You bring that money in, the players and owners split it up about 50-50, and then you have salaries off of that, and then you have cap space, okay? And what the NBA realized with this unprecedented extra revenue, the tripling of revenue, that all of a sudden all these caps that would go maybe 62 to 64 million, then 64 to 66, and then you'd be up to like 72 million in cap space. Mm-hmm. These small little incremental things that teams really had to plan for to finally get enough cap space, that with this new TV money, you were going to have 2/3 of the league have an historic amount of free cap space. And you were going to have a team like Golden State have enough cap space to sign somebody like Durant, who's supposed to be one of the most expensive players and still was, and they were able to fit that in. So the NBA went to the Players Association and said, guess what? Let's still pay you all of the money that you're going to make. But instead of having the cap directly related to this massive spike out of nowhere, let's do this softening of the cap. And guess what happened?
All of a sudden, these guys are not getting paid as much as they should be.
Well, the players were like, wait a minute, we're not. What do you mean you want to keep some of the money?
Right.
They're like, we're not keeping any of the money. We're going to continue to pay you all the money that we would pay you normally, but we just want to make the cap a little different. We want the cap to be a little different. And the Players Association, by all accounts, just out of hand, nope, not doing it. They're like, okay, you understand all these teams now are going to have cap space, like massive amounts of cap space. The best teams are going to have crazy amounts of cap space. And instead of all the players just kind of sharing in all this extra wealth, the players like a Reggie Jackson or an Enes Kanter, who are, second, third-tier players, really, they're going to get all this kind of max money because they have to spend it on someone instead of maybe just spreading it out a little bit more. And what apparently is being told, and I don't know if it's true or not, but that Michelle Roberts coming in, taking over for Players Association, showing that she is going to be strong, going to oppose. That player-owner dynamic is always contentious, just borderline nasty, that there's a feeling that she had a lot of the stars in mind. The stars got their contracts, these new designated player things. But really, if I were another player, Adnan, I would now look back at this and say to the Players Association, why didn't we soften this thing out? If the biggest problem now in the NBA is that there's this one team that it feels like none of us can beat, why did my Players Association not think about the rest of the league and making sure that this was competitive? Because that would be the NBA's argument. All right, you're mad about the super teams? Fine. But really, if the Players Association would just agree to the softening of the cap, while you still would have made all your money, we wouldn't have this Golden State problem right now.
Which is crazy to think about because right now...
Does that make sense to you?
It does, because right now people are blaming specific players. Like it's LeBron, Durant always. It's like, no, it's your fault that these super teams have happened, and now it's no fun because we don't have enough competitive disparity. But you're telling me that these star players are actually at fault because they did not recognize the way the cap system was set up?
I'm saying that that's a theory that is out there. I don't know enough of the inner workings that would tell you, I know for a fact LeBron did this or Durant did this. But here's what I know, is that the top players made sure with the new salary structures that they were going to be taken care of. And they should be, because when you're that great of a player and you can dictate a franchise's success single-handedly, like you should be compensated. You've been an underpaid athlete. But if the Players Association is really about the best interest of its 450 current members and the retired members, and I'm asking this just hypothetically because I'm still not sure what is true, I would ask, like, what if I was the guy that's the 10th guy, or every 10th guy, or every 10th through 15th guy? Like, I know that I'm not what makes the league go round, but if I'm on an NBA team and I want us to be all competitive, couldn't we all been more competitive if we had just said, yeah, NBA, like, we get what you're trying to do. You soften the cap. You don't have a Golden State acquisition of Durant. The players don't just all load up there, and it feels like more teams have a chance at this. I wonder if that's also thought of as something you would do in representing the Players Association, if all of this stuff, how the inner workings of it. We do know this. The NBA wanted to offer a softening of the cap. The Players Association dismissed it immediately. We do know that part.
And that's why I wonder, you're right, for the Players Association, because listen, you do have to divide and conquer. Like, you're never going to keep the entire workforce happy. So it's more important to make sure the stars are satisfied. Like you said, hey, I'm going to get mine no matter what because, I am the star player, so I deserve that. What I wonder is, and I don't mean to critique the Players Association, but do players 10 to 15, do the lesser-known players, are they aware of what all these ramifications were when it was being presented?
I would guess no. Okay, and I'm going to give you an analogy. Well, it's not even an analogy. It's a story. There's one team, and I know this for a fact because I talked to the GM. They were below the salary floor. So if you are not at the salary floor, say you're at $10 million less, right? Say the salary floor is $90 million, and your team's total payroll by the end of the year is only $80 million. They'll let you start the season up, but you got to pay $90 million. All right, those are the rules.
Mm-hmm.
So you would go to every player on the team and you'd say, guess what, 15 players, we're going to chop up $10 million, and we're all going to give you a check at the end of the year, just so we get to the salary floor, and that's what we can say we spent that on team payroll. So this team was way below the salary floor. They made a trade for a really expensive player. They took on the contract because they were under the cap. They got a couple picks out of the deal. They waived the player, but because they had absorbed the player's contract, they now were over the salary floor.
Problem solved.
Right. Team's problem solved.
Yeah, player not waived.
One player comes into the locker room and goes, oh, these guys, starts killing the front office. And all the other players on the team are like, what are you talking about? And the player goes, you realize that dude we traded for absorbed his number and waived him, that cost all of us about $1 million in a bonus check at the end of the year. And some of those players weren't even making $1 million in salary for the entire season. So the players go like, wait a minute, what? We just lost $1 million? Like Hinkie used to do this stuff all the time with the Sixers.
Right.
And this isn't a Sixers story. Like, wait, what? And then I remember the front office being like, yeah, no one else on the team knew. Like, if it wasn't for the one player, think how mad you would be if you were making like $600,000-700,000,
right? And
then you were this close. If you just made it through the trade deadline, and look, I don't blame the team. They wanted to get the draft picks.
Yeah, the team. That's shrewd. That's good decision making. You got to get above the cap, like you said, but still save some money. I wonder though, like how many of those players are aware of it, and how much of that would the Players Association say? Listen, there's player reps on each team. We don't have to like force feed it to these guys. The information is presented there. Here's a pamphlet. If you don't go through and read all this stuff, then that's the way it gets done.
When Reggie Jackson did his deal, like max money, John Wall, and I thought John Wall was right. He brought it up as if you became a free agent in those years and not softening the cap, then you load it up. And I guess the argument was, let's not trust these guys. Take whatever you can get. We should have Michelle Roberts on again about that, because I think that sometimes things have to absolutely punch you in the face and happen before you to realize that, like, what it actually is.
Well, some of that was when all of a sudden Mike Conley was the highest paid player in the NBA. People go, I don't understand how this happened. And you go, well, listen, we're flush.
He's up.
Right. He's up. We're flush with TV money. Like you said, there is a cap. There's a number you got to spend on. So, hey, he's not worth $30 million a year, but that's where this thing's going to go.
Because I could get the NBAPA going, all right, hey, they want us to soften the cap. Well, what do you mean they want to soften the cap? Oh, we're going to get our money. Like, no, we're going to get your money, but they want to soften the cap. No. Like, pay it all out now. Like, I'd read one article where I guess their counter was an advance on the TV money. So,
just give me what you got now.
I think it's at least worth bringing up just because I haven't heard it really anywhere else.
Okay, Kevin, for the grand prize of $1 million, what color is the White House?
I know this.
5 seconds.
Oh, switching to Geico could save you a bunch of money on car insurance?
Okay. Judges? That's true, Kevin. They'll allow it. Congratulations. You're a winner.
Woo!
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Full lines, people really excited about this. It makes a ton of sense, if you ask me. We got Adnan Virk with us today. They want to talk movies. Your podcast, Cinephile, is one of the growing art house pods, right? Is that the category it's under?
No, it's under Film and TV.
Okay.
It's on iTunes, Cinephile, ESPN, on Twitter, and on Instagram. Top 10 right now of the original podcast we do here. I don't know specifics beyond that, but we're doing all right.
I was watching that Seinfeld episode where they go to get the employee selections. And Seinfeld, Cerruti's looking at me being like, what?
Yeah.
But they have that, remember that part
Cerruti's seen Seinfeld before. Yeah.
But Elaine goes, and she's like, oh, Vincent, And then Kramer comes up because Vincent's an art house goon. All right, let's do this. 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. Movie face-off. You ask Adnan 2 movies, debating with your buddies which one's been better. He will settle the debate now. Go, Jeff, Indiana.
John Wick 1 or John Wick 2?
John Wick 1. I mean, listen, I generally will not side with the sequel because I just favor the fact the original has originality in its favor. Terrific action. John Wick was a real surprise how good it was. Sequel held up, but not as good as the first.
Okay. First one is so sneaky good once you get over that it's just kind of crazy. Right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it is
the shooting
essence of an action
people
movie.
with a punch,
right?
Like the punch shooting.
Just insane.
You don't see that with the HK VP9. Let's go to Steve in Maine.
Billy Madison or Happy Gilmore?
More of a Happy Gilmore guy, just because I like the Bob Barker cameo. Both are funny. I mean, they're definitely in that Adam Sandler wheelhouse. I mean, they're not Mr. Deeds, because I love Turturro, but I will side with Happy Gilmore. The golf wins out.
Freeze Pops is losing his mind.
He loves Billy Madison.
No, Billy Madison is the GOAT.
A lot of goats out there. Last few years, the goat population has been just
decimated.
Have your goat spayed or neutered. Let's go to Cody in Alabama.
The Shawshank Redemption or Goodfellas?
Goodfellas, come on. I mean, listen, I understand why you're putting the two together because of rewatchability, and both are often on television. Of course, Goodfellas heavily edited, but Shawshank Redemption you'll get on TNT all the time. Both are wonderful films, but obviously Goodfellas is one of my favorite movies of all time. Goodfellas, hands down winner.
Grant in Texas, you're on Movie Face Off.
Going with Fracture or going with A Few Good Men?
Oh, Fracture out of the box there. Okay, I hadn't thought about that movie in a while, but A Few Good Men. Actually, I just saw it again recently. Just watched the courtroom scene. Aaron Sorkin script, terrific. Verbal jousting between Nicholson and Cruise, epic. You Can't Handle the Truth, of course, and all the catchphrases. Kevin Bacon's in the cast, Demi Moore. Whole thing's excellent. I'm going to go with A Few Good Men.
Early Gosling is Willie Beecham.
Yeah, very good. Rob Reiner directed, too. People always surprised by that.
Shout out to Double R.
Yeah.
Let's go to Don in Vermont. Hey, Don.
Hey, big fan. What do you think of Howard the Duck or Goonies?
Howard the Duck's pretty atrocious. Whenever people mention George Lucas, things he regrets, he actually produced that. Howard the Duck is awful. Goonies, runaway winner, coming-of-age tale, mid-'80s. I believe it's one of Stugatz's favorites, too.
It's got everything. Goonies has got everything.
Funny, sweet, charming.
Make-out scene.
Yeah, classic 80s movie, which means Rudy would probably hate
Josh
it.
Brolin went as himself recently at a Halloween party.
Oh, he did?
From the Goonies.
That's pretty
cool.
cool.
Recently. It's not like Halloween was the other day. I don't know. For some reason, I ended up on his Instagram, so.
That's okay.
Josh Brolin seems like he's having a good time.
Rudy hates him. Don in Vermont, was that him? Yeah.
Yeah, why don't you just go?
That's okay. Does it Don in Vermont?
No, it's Wade in Oregon. We
Wade
just
in
spoke
Oregon.
with Don, yeah. Wade-o.
A mustached Charles Bronson in Death Wish versus a clean-shaven Clint Eastwood in Dirty Harry.
Clean-shaven Clint Eastwood. I mean, Dirty Harry, that was iconic film. I mean, now it gets a lot of blowback because people are like, hang on a second, this guy's just this vigilante, although Bronson obviously was similar in that vein as well. I don't want to go anti-mustache Bronson, but I'm going to go clean-shaven Clint Eastwood. Just celebrated birthday, by the way, 87 years old.
Bronson?
No, Clint Eastwood did.
Clint, oh,
Yeah.
all right.
Clint the winner.
All right, let's do Sean in Michigan.
Hey, good to hear. Shutter Island or Inception? Which was better?
Wait a minute, what was the first one?
He says Shutter Island, which I love. Oh, jeez. I'll
What?
go. No, I love Shutter Island.
It's terrible.
No, it's great. Shutter Island's excellent.
This is the most offensive thing I've heard all week.
But I'll go with Inception, only because it's Cerruti and Russillo, and you guys will go crazy if I don't say it. But I love Shutter Island.
You think Shutter Island's better than Inception? Will you drive home today going, I kind of regret that I gave in to those guys?
I won't regret it, because I think Shutter Island is not great. It has its flaws, but I do like it more than most. DiCaprio, Prisoner of the Mind, Mark Ruffalo.
Inception's perfect.
I don't know if Inception's perfect. It's a great movie. I'll go with Inception. But it's more Cerruti and Russillo. I don't want to hear the backlash.
His accent's terrible. When he says marshals, like every other word.
And Shutter Island?
Terrible.
Minor quibble if you're going to crush a guy for an accent.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the basis of the disagreement with Shutter Island?
Let's go. Let's keep going.
Good
John in
movie.
Alabama.
Adnan, Alien or Aliens?
Aliens, the rare sequel that is better than the original. I will go with Aliens in this case. Very good call there. Good question, because Sigourney Weaver, of course, both more action in Aliens, which is James Cameron. I believe Alien, the original, is Ridley Scott.
Matt, Virginia.
Good Will Hunting or Dumber and Dumber 2?
Good Will Hunting. Dumb and Dumber 2. Russillo actually saw in the theater.
No. Dumber and Dumberer.
Oh, that's the one you saw. Okay.
Yeah.
Dumb and Dumber 2, a separate issue. Not as good as the original Dumb and
I
Dumber.
fell asleep.
Good Will Hunting. How do you like them apples? Won an Oscar for Affleck and Damon. Great screenplay. And Robin Williams, wonderful performance. Devin in Miami.
Yes, good job, Adnan. Go.
Hello, yeah, I got Gladiator and 300.
Wait, what was it?
Say it again.
Gladiator and 300.
Oh, Gladiator 300.
Gladiator, I'll go with those two. I love Gladiator. Epic scope. Joaquin Phoenix, excellent. Russillo won an Oscar. One more. Anthony in Vegas. Squeeze us in. Line 4.
Let's do Mighty Ducks and Sandlot.
That's what we squeeze in at the buzzer? Mighty Ducks. I'll take it over the Sandlot. Sandlot's all right. Smallman upset. Yeah, Smallman loves the Sandlot. There are definitely Sandlot people. Greg Colley, baseball producer, loves the Sandlot. I'll go Mighty Ducks. Emilio Estevez.
I'm starting to think Smallman's related to Bud Selig or something.
He loves baseball. St.
Right.
Louis.
I mean, just
Rudy
Michelle Doubleday back there.
Coming to America versus Trading Spaces. Our TV guys want to know.
Coming to America, I'll take. Both are awesome. Eddie Murphy at his best, but I'll take Coming to America. More quotable.
Trading Places.
The Ryen Russillo Show.
What's up, Michael? It's been a little while. Hope you enjoyed the playoffs. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. I'm just recuperating. That's about it. It's a grind. I can't imagine how it is to playing all 4 rounds or just covering and traveling all 4 rounds. It's a little much at the end of it. So I'm ready. I enjoyed it, but I was ready for it to be over as well.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way because overall the playoffs weren't that great. But now we have this story today, and I guess the team isn't confirming it, but it feels like a lot of people are. How do you process what goes into the decision in 2017 for a team like the Warriors to decide whether or not they want to visit the White House after a championship run?
You talk to your players, and you leave it up to them. Right? You can't make somebody go to the White House. To me, it's very simple. You talk to your players, and if you think that enough of them don't want to go, you call the White House and say, listen, while some of us, and I'm particularly owners, and I know a few of the owners with the Warriors may want to come to this, we got X number of players who don't. What do you want to do? So I don't think this is very complicated. I think that's what you do. I think I know personally of a few players who will decline. And this is not, that's what we did this story on PTI about the Patriots, and I said, looking forward, when we get to situations like the NBA and certain college situations, I wonder how this is going to turn out. With the NBA, I knew it would be an issue, or I suspected it would be. And it ought not be that big an issue because we could have anticipated this. It wasn't that hard to see it coming.
Trump certainly is awfully polarizing, Michael. We all know that. But do you think that people would try to set aside and say, listen, I'm not going because I'm in support of the president, but I do respect the White House. I want to go and just see what it's all about and just observe. No?
Sorry, talking to the wrong guy. No. I mean, no. If we want to get political, then, if this person doesn't respect the office enough in the traditional ways that I respect the office and previous presidents have respected the office, then why should I pay more respect to it than he does? No, not at all. And so, no. I don't have any problem with that. I mean, I played golf, which everybody sort of knows, with the previous president of the United States, and people say, well, suppose then the new president calls and asks you to play. I said, no, first of all, that won't happen. But secondly, no. No, you have, we talk about people and athletes sticking with their beliefs or abandoning them or having them in the first place. So if you have them, stick by them. And so, no.
What are the odds, Michael, that Trump would preemptively send out a tweet mocking the Warriors, knowing that they would decline the invitation anyways?
Oh, I'm sure he would, and that would demonstrate exactly why I wouldn't go.
You no more follow-ups? You just caught me off guard there. All right, Michael Wilbon with us, and I don't think any of this is even close to surprising. But as we look at the offseason, okay, and I was talking about it a little bit earlier. Do you remember when the NBA wanted to soften out the cap? And they were like, look, we're still going to pay you, but we don't want to have this massive cap spike, right? Remember all this?
Yeah.
Okay. And the easiest thing is as a player to be like, what do the owners want? Well, whatever they want is not what I want. And that's what the Players Association said. Michelle Roberts, absolutely not. I think there was one article I read today where they asked for an advance on the TV money, just to kind of go back at them. Do you think the players, and I think we know the answer to this first part, had no idea what this actually meant could happen, and so you don't have a softening of the cap? Now Golden State adds Durant. Do you think that the players now understood what the ramifications of not softening the cap meant, even knowing you would still get all your money, that they'd like to go back in time and revisit what this Warriors team became because of it?
No, because I think they'll adjust. They might in the short term. It's a great question. They might in the short term, but I think in the long term they'll think about how to get the cap, any salary structure, any budget, like we have in our own families. You're always trying to figure out a way to get around it. How do we get around this? Where are the loopholes? Where are the soft spots? And how do I get mine if this is the structure? And so, sure, I always said that this deal was about superstars and not about rank and file. Although, rank and file is going to do just fine in this too. But this is what we have now, and I think if given another chance, it wouldn't necessarily change it very much. Just average dollars and cents wise, I mean, the average salary after this whole thing finishes, and then the superstar players, we're talking, what is it? What's the number? $207 million for a guy like Chris Paul, say, and isn't it going to be like $240 for LeBron? For LeBron and Durant's next contract if he's still playing at this level. So I don't think they necessarily. First of all, not that many people are smart enough to see around the corners. And I'm not. I just don't. I can't see around the corners in our own business. I can't always see the pitfalls. I couldn't see a whole generation of people saying, I got a phone, therefore I don't need a TV. I can't see that. So I'm not trying to say this in an insulting way. I don't think most players saw that. That's not what they do. Their agents, a lot of them ought to have seen some of it, given the people that these big agencies employ to forecast the future economically. But the players themselves, I doubt it. And I think they'll just roll with it and figure out, okay, how do I get where I need to be? Particularly if you were one of those players making $207 million versus $165, you may decide, okay, I value winning. Look at some of the lower paid guys like Matt Barnes and oh my God, backup center on the Warriors now.
McGee?
Played for San Antonio and the Pacers for so long. I'm having a moment. But anyway, guys go and they leave money on the table at certain levels.
Oh, you're talking about David West. Yeah.
David West, of course. Yes, David West. Those guys make a conscious decision that they want to pursue a ring. So the question is what percentage of guys are going to do that, thinking the money they're going to get anyway is more than they ever dreamt? But I don't think they go back in time. That's an interesting question. I may be answering it in theory more than in practice.
Yeah, that's kind of how because I was kicking it around last night and this morning, so I didn't mean to spring that on you because I don't even think
that's interesting, though.
It is, but it's not a fair question just in a 7-8 minute radio hit to be like, economically, how would you timeline these last few years? But it's something I've thought about a little bit more because I just know that you're right about the part with the players. There's so many players that be like, wait a minute, what happened? What does this mean?
Yeah.
And there's so many times that we do agree to stuff where we never really can understand the ramifications until they're hitting us in the face. And I would just wonder if you ask the players, if the Players Association is about 450 players, are there a bunch of players going, now we got this Goliath that we're dealing with when we all would have still been paid the same? It's just a theory. So anyway.
Yeah, and movement is not what it is to be able to challenge. I think it's more of a question now for the GMs and player personnel people. As they try to put together something to chase down the Warriors, like Danny Ainge addressed it yesterday. I'm sure you guys talked about it. What now? Like, what do they do? I think it's more immediate concern to them and their competitive instincts than even to the players.
From basketball to baseball, Michael, one last one for you. It's too late now to say it's still early because it's middle of June and your beloved Chicago Cubs are 500. I know the division stinks. They're only a game back of the Milwaukee Brewers, but what's the angst level right now in Chicago after winning the World Series, enjoying the honeymoon, and now having a team that's shaky?
Yeah, it's not very high, the angst level. The angst level is never very high in Chicago. I'm always trying to get people in the East Coast to understand we don't have angst. That's a Northeast thing, specifically a New England thing. We don't do angst. We go to Wrigleyville, we watch a game, people have drinks. I'm not a drinker. You have a pizza, and you say, let's go tomorrow too. We don't do angst. So are people a little ticked? Day by day, but after winning a World Series after 108 years, you're not going to have angst here, especially now. I mean, you're not going to have that. Am I ticked off when I see them giving up runs early in every game and trying to play catch up? Yeah. Do I hope that they can sort of maximize a run? I hope they can have a run, not a year. And maybe but they're so young. Maybe they need a down year in order to have a sense of urgency. Maybe they need to feel what it's like to not make the playoffs or something. But it is, what are we, 65 games in, something like that? I look at these results and I'm like, okay, are they, last week they won 5 games in a row and the story was Arrieta regains his 2 miles an hour in his fastball. He gets to 94 again. And every time there's somebody regaining something, the next week they go on a 6-game losing streak. So I don't know what to make of it. It'd be interesting to listen to Theo right now, which now that the basketball season's over, I'm not listening to anybody for a while. I'm going to take a break. But it would be interesting to listen to Theo on what he thinks it is and whether they obviously management, Joe Madden and Theo could have angst right now. I don't think they're at that point from listening to what they've been saying publicly, because they're pretty true publicly to privately in terms of how they project their feelings. But no, the city has got, I mean, people walking around. I'm standing right here off Michigan Avenue, and people are in their Cub hats, and they're in their jerseys, and the team is not even in town, and people are happy that they're playing, and it's funny. That's how we are. And I know Bostonians and New Yorkers and Washingtonians and Philadelphians can't understand that, which is why we're also glad that we're not them.
Well said.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it.
All right, you guys. Be good.
Michael Wilbon, co-host of PTI.
Thank you for listening to the Ryen Russillo Show podcast. You can check out the show live weekdays at 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, and on ESPN News. The Ryen Russillo Show podcast.